There is a conversation that Bostonians have frequently with visitors from other American cities, especially those from New York, that summarizes quite well the particular character of that city. The conversation starts when someone from outside mentions that New York is the best city in the United States. And the Bostonian, with that particular mixture of intellectual pride and sporting competitiveness that defines the city's character, responds calmly but firmly. Boston has more history, more universities, more championships, and better access to the sea. New York has more people and more noise. And that, in Boston, is not considered an advantage. Boston is the oldest city in the United States in terms of continuous historical relevance. Founded in 1630 by Puritan settlers who arrived from England seeking religious freedom, it was the stage for the most important moments in the birth of the American nation. The Boston Tea Party of 1773, the Battle of Bunker Hill, the March to Lexington and Concord that started the War of Independence. The streets of downtown Boston are not a recreation for tourists. They are the same streets where the founding fathers of the United States walked, with the same cobblestones and in some cases the same buildings. And in the summer of 2026, Boston is not only receiving the World Cup, it receives it while celebrating America 250, the 250th anniversary of the United States Declaration of Independence, and while Sail Boston, the largest maritime celebration ever to visit the United States, fills Boston Harbor with historic tall ships from around the world between July 11th and 16th. FIFA 3, simultaneous events of historic scale in the same city in the same summer. It is not an accident, it is Boston being Boston. The stadium where matches are played is Gillette Stadium in Foxborough, Massachusetts, about 45 kilometers south of Boston. For the World Cup, it becomes Boston Stadium and hosts 7 matches. 5 group stage matches, a round of 32 on June 29th, and a quarterfinal on July 9th. Sky Sports Gillette is the home of the New England Patriots of the NFL, the team with the most Super Bowl titles in modern history, and of the New England Revolution of MLS. It holds nearly 69,000 people and has a recent history of massive events that makes it one of the best prepared stadiums to handle the volume of crowds the World Cup will bring. The matches played there are a first-class European menu with some African and Caribbean surprises that promise to make Boston one of the most international venues of the tournament. On June 13th, Haiti against Scotland. On June 16th, the Intercontinental Playoff winner against Norway. On June 19th, Scotland against Morocco. On June 23rd, England against Ghana. On June 26th, Norway against France. On June 29th, a round of 32 match. And on July 9th, the quarterfinal. Sky Sports. Let us stop on the matches most loaded with narrative. England against Ghana on June 23rd is one of those encounters with layers of meaning that go well beyond the sporting result. England, with its colonial history in West Africa, and with a national team that in recent years has incorporated numerous players of African origin who chose to represent the English colours, against Ghana, the country that in Qatar 2022 eliminated South Korea, and that has one of the loudest and most colourful supporter groups in Africa. The Ghanaian community in Boston, which is significant and active, is going to turn that match into something the city will not have seen before. Norway against France on June 26th is the most attractive match on paper of all the group stage ones. Sky Sports France, the team with the most star players of their generation. With Mbappé and the new generation that already won a World Cup in 2018, against Norway, Haaland's team, the striker who in recent years has proven capable of scoring goals in any circumstance and against any opponent. Boston, with its significant Scandinavian community and its cultural proximity to Europe, is going to receive that match with particular intensity. French supporters who travel to World Cups are known the world over for their organisation, their numbers and their enthusiasm, and the Franco-Canadian community of New England, which is historically significant, is going to add to that contingent in a way that will surprise many. And on June 19th, Scotland against Morocco is a match that in the Boston context has special meaning. The Scottish-American community has a very important historical presence in New England, with roots going back to the first centuries of American colonization. And Morocco, after its historic semi-final at Qatar 2022, arrives in Boston with the label of one of the most dangerous teams in the tournament. That match at Gillette Stadium, with Boston's Scottish supporters mixed with Moroccans arriving from all over, is going to be one of the most festive of the group stage on the entire East Coast. For getting to Gillette Stadium, the MBTA has announced 14 additional trains on match days with service every 15 minutes. Share America. The commuter rail line connecting South Station in downtown Boston with Foxborough Station, which is steps from the stadium, is the most comfortable and most recommended option. The journey takes about 45 minutes, and on match days, there will be special trains running much more frequently than the normal service. Only about a quarter of Gillette's usual parking spaces are going to be available during the World Cup, so public transport is definitely the smartest option. Share America. If you rent a car, leave at least 2 hours early and prepare for traffic on the I-95 highway, which on event days can be very slow. For accommodation, Boston has an advantage over other World Cup venues that is not always mentioned. It is a compact and walkable city, with a geography that keeps most interesting neighbourhoods at reasonable distance from each other. The most recommended neighbourhoods are Back Bay, the most elegant Victorian neighbourhood in the city, with its red brick brownstones and its Newbury Street full of boutiques and restaurants, which has direct metro connection to South Station. Beacon Hill, the oldest historic neighbourhood in the city, with its cobblestone streets and gas lanterns, is one of the most photographed neighbourhoods in the United States and has a tranquility and beauty that contrasts with the World Cup energy in a way many travellers are going to appreciate. South End, the most gastronomic and most creative neighbourhood in Boston, with the highest concentration of top-quality restaurants per square metre of any city in New England. Cambridge, on the other side of the Charles River, is technically a separate city from Boston, but is so integrated into the metropolitan area that the distinction is almost academic, in the most literal sense. Cambridge is the home of Harvard and MIT, the two most famous universities in the world, and has an intellectual energy and neighbourhood life that perfectly complements the World Cup experience. The coffee shops around Harvard Square are among the best places in the world to read, think, and watch humanity pass by. And during the World Cup, they are going to be full of supporters from all over the planet who will turn that academic corner into something completely unexpected and wonderful. And now the part that makes Boston a completely unique experience among all the 2026 World Cup venues. The concentration of historical, cultural, and gastronomic richness that city offers in a geographical space that can be covered almost entirely on foot. The Freedom Trail is the most important route, a path marked by a red line on the ground that connects 16 historic sites in downtown Boston, from the Boston Common, the oldest public park in the United States, to the Bunker Hill Monument in Charlestown, passing by the Old North Church, the starting point of Paul Revere's ride that started the American Revolution, and by the place where the USS Constitution, the oldest warship in the world still afloat, is docked. The complete walk takes about 3 hours and is one of the best designed tourist experiences in the United States. Entertaining, instructive, and completely free. Fenway Park is the oldest baseball stadium in the American major leagues, built in 1912, and is one of the most beloved and most photogenic places in American sport. It has the Green Monster, the 11-metre green wall in left field that is one of the most iconic elements of American baseball, and an atmosphere on match days that combines history with passion in a way no modern stadium can replicate. Getting a ticket for a Red Sox game during the World Cup, when Boston is going to be full of international supporters who have never seen baseball up close, is one of those experiences that gets talked about years later. The Institute of Contemporary Art, the ICA, is located on the Boston waterfront with spectacular views of the bay, and has a collection and exhibition program that is among the most interesting on the US East Coast. The Museum of Fine Arts has one of the richest art collections in North America, with works ranging from ancient Egypt to contemporary American art, all in an imposing building in the Fenway neighborhood. But if there is a gastronomic experience that defines Boston in a way no other place can replicate, it is the seafood of New England. Maine lobsters, steamed and served with clarified butter, are one of the great gastronomic pleasures of North America. The clam chowder, the thick, creamy soup of clams and potatoes that is the most emblematic dish of New England cooking, can be found in any restaurant in the city, but in the best waterfront establishments has a quality that justifies the trip on its own. Legal Seafoods, the most famous seafood chain in Boston that has spent decades being the reference standard for New England seafood, and Union Oyster House, the oldest restaurant in the United States in continuous operation since 1826, are mandatory stops for any World Cup visitor who wants to understand what eating well in Boston means. And then there is the detail that makes Boston in the summer of 2026 something completely unrepeatable. Sail Boston, the largest maritime celebration ever to visit the United States, is going to bring historic tall ships from around the world to Boston Harbor between July 11th and 16th FIFA, exactly when the World Cup is at its most intense phase, with the quarterfinal in Boston on July 9th and the semi-final in Dallas on July 14th. Seeing the historic tall ships of Portugal, France, Scotland and Norway anchored in Boston Harbor while their national teams play the most important football of their lives at Gillette Stadium 45 kilometers away is the kind of coincidence that only the greatest year in the recent history of that city can produce. Boston is not a city that needs the World Cup for self-esteem. It is a city that already knows exactly what it is and what it has. But the World Cup is going to give it something nothing else can give: the opportunity to show the entire world that the most historic, most academic, and most championship-winning city in the United States also knows how to welcome, also knows how to celebrate, and also, when the moment requires it, knows how to do exactly what it always does best: win.